In my eyes, there's no way Scarlet and Violet will not reverse the downfall of Pokemon. Ever since Pokemon went 3D, the game quality has suffered. New Pokemon numbers went down, old Pokemon were left out of the games completely, and the Pokemon themselves lost their soul and personality. But Scarlet and Violet are changing that. Well, maybe except for the National Dex. There's going to be timestamps or chapters for you to follow along or skip ahead if you want, but let's get into it. The first thing they're changing and constantly improving is the quality of the 3D textures and characters. For the last several games, quality has been all over the place and nothing really looked like it belonged in the world. Kind of like as if every artist that worked on the game had their own idea and it wasn't uniform. The characters looked way better than the world graphics, for example. At least in the most recent mainline game, Sword and Shield. Now, I'm not a huge graphics nerd, but some things are just so ugly they are distracting and pull you out of the experience, especially when there's a disparity in quality from one area or character to the next. First, I want to bring up the characters as they are one of the first things we see in-game, and their expressions and animation are key to good storytelling. Now, we don't want blank stare robots or copied animations from old games. I'm looking at you, Hop. Okay, so I want you to look here at Arven, and then we're going to compare him to somebody from Legends Arceus. And he's got eye movement, he's got good texture on the jacket and everything. And I mean, like, look at this shirt. The jacket's not that great, but it at least has some folds and stuff. It doesn't look like a flat texture. Okay, so this is from We Will Code, and it's just Volo in Legends Arceus. And I mean, you can already see, I mean, this is only in 720p, but like, look at how just flat these textures are, and how, like, they don't even mesh together. Like, they're clearly not even, like, they don't even look like the same article of clothing. His shirt looks like it's part of his body. It doesn't even look like a shirt. So I think Arven definitely has better animation, and definitely has way better clothes. Like texturing and everything. I mean, okay, fair enough. One of them has better lighting. Obviously, Arven has way better lighting. But even in good lighting, Volo has no texture on his, well, anything basically. Like, it's bad. Like, this is supposed to be like a rolled up, I don't know, a pillow or something? It has nothing. Like, but this has folds and stuff, so it's definitely huge improvements, and that's even over just the last game. Here's GatorEX doing an even better job than I could ever do, describing the changes to the characters.
Being described as wax figures or dolls. I think the main thing was that the nose was modeled and cast a shadow at every angle, which, while being realistic, doesn't keep in line with the traditional anime style. It's still present obviously, but for some reason doesn't feel as jarring. For sure, the type of lighting used is different, and I think it better complements the characters and even the Pokemon. You can see it most when comparing the cutscene of the starter Pokemon, but also the characters' eyes are just better done to make them look less doll-like. No staring off into space. Again, just overall improvements that we would expect.
I mean, just look how good the character looks here. And then just a few frames later, look at how good Koraidon looks, man. He's got frickin' feathers, dude. I want you to watch the main character's eyes here. I don't think this has ever been done in a Pokemon game, at least this well. Alright, did you see it? I'll play it again. That's right. Eye centering after looking to the left. Like, when she turns, it actually looks to the side, then centers back. Look at that. And blinking, proper blinking. I know. It's like rocket science. Pokemon's never done this before. It actually looks good. And as you can see here, this boy character is entering this salon. Not only did they improve the characters, they also greatly improved character customization, even with freckles. And yes, it does look like boys can finally have long hair in-game, and even cute eyes and eyelashes. So you no longer have to pick a girl character in order to look good. This is to show the level of improvement between trailers. Alright, I'm going to jump through these. This is the second trailer, this is the third trailer. And so you want to be looking in the background, like there's a thing over here, there's a thing over here, these things, stuff over here changes. Like, it's pretty apparent that they are definitely changing stuff between trailers. And this is, you know, just a month apart, right? The shaders are different. So personally, I like this one better. Yeah, I actually like the earlier trailer, but the shaders on Quaxley here are definitely better. Like this looks a lot better for the Pokemon here, but everything is more washed out in the background. I guess it's just a field of view kind of effect. I don't know why the tower in the background goes away. Maybe they didn't want that, like maybe they thought it was a spoiler or something. I don't know why this mound of dirt gets smaller, like, but you know, and the trees get shorter. All that's just kind of weird to me, but here's to remind you of what the textures look like in Sword and Shield to see the improvements that Scarlet and Violet have made. Like, look at how good this grass is. Now, the ground texture underneath is still not great, but the path is textured now. It's not just the muddy looking thing, so they are slowly improving it. Next, I want to talk about a returning feature that's kind of had an up and down history in the Pokemon franchise, and that is the day and night cycle. So we know the day and night cycle is back, but it looks like it's day here, right? And then he goes to terastallize, and it immediately turns dark. I don't know if they did this for effect or to show that this is indeed after dark, and you can battle gyms outside in the day or night, depending on what you want to do. So it'll be the most interesting use of the day-night cycle in Pokemon as far as I know. And we know from the other trailers that there are Pokemon specific to day or night that'll spawn in the overworld. Next, I want to talk about the open 3D world of Scarlet and Violet, and why I think it'll be the best and most fantastic 3D world we've seen so far. But first, I'm going to rag on Gen 6. So I don't know how, but when I search Routes Gen 6, it perfectly explains exactly what is wrong with the 3D Pokemon games. Until now. You see, the very first option here is Route 6 from Kalos, and it is literally a straight line. That is what's wrong with 3D Pokemon, and that is what is fixed in the 3D world of Scarlet and Violet. The open 3D world of Scarlet and Violet. What Sword and Shield failed to do. So firstly, it's an open world, a real one. Not like Sword and Shield, where you had kind of crappy routes and a bad sort of open world area where you found Pokemon. And because it's fully open world, there'll be proper weather. There won't be any sandstorms 2 feet away from a snowstorm that's, you know, a minute walk away from a thunderstorm. And I think it'll be a lot more fun to explore. Plus, what we've seen so far of the cities looks to be they're large and actually inhabited, not just with Pokemon, but with people too. People that don't just kind of walk randomly, but actually do stuff like sitting around, eating at a cafe. And it also doesn't look like we'll get lost easily in them and have to take a taxi everywhere like from Lumiose. And I think the final benefit is that the Pokemon won't be kind of randomly scattered around and honestly out of place. They'll actually be in habitat where it makes sense for them to be. Another improvement from Sword and Shield is co-op play, except for this time it's going to be actual overworld co-op play, where you can actually interact with each other, and it seems like even in cities. And even though we have no knowledge of what the story will actually be about, it seems like they're doing a pretty good focus on the story this time around, unlike the very lackluster Sword and Shield story, and I mean, I can't even remember what the hell happened in Gen 6. Gen 7 was okay. I mean, at least this time they have 3 different chances to get it right, right? They got the gym one, they got the treasure one, and they got the evil team one. And speaking of the evil team, it looks to be pretty good. I mean, they have a frickin' car. It's kind of scary. One of the paths is the Path of Legends. I think it's the treasure one. And in the Seek Your Treasure trailer, Cloth is revealed. And it's revealed as a Titan Pokemon that apparently has possession of something called an Herba Mystica. I don't know, I'm sure it has some importance to the story, but what's important to me is I hope I can catch these things, or, I mean, at least battle them more than once, unlike the Totem Pokemon, which you couldn't even catch or battle again. Now I'm going to go over the new features that honestly look like a huge step in the right direction for Pokemon. And the first is actual, real RPG elements, with Pokemon dropping their own specific loot, and that loot you can use to craft specific TMs and probably other stuff later on. And there's also this Let's Go feature that's kind of like auto battles, and it also allows you to pick up overworld items with your Pokemon like in Legends Arceus. And honestly, it looks really good. And the auto battles look really quick and efficient, so it'll be a lot better for grinding out XP rather than like XP candies, which aren't really fun to use, they just kind of get the job done. Auto battles looks really good. You'll get loot and XP and EVs. And Scarlet and Violet's take on the Pokemon a Me or Refresh or Camp idea, picnics, is honestly really refreshing. It looks less clunky than some of the old ones, and more playful and fun. The food creation looks less annoying and more interesting in that it actually gives nice boosts after you're done. Not only that, it looks like this feature will replace Pokemon daycare centers for breeding and allow you to breed on the go instead. So you can combine a few useful activities at once rather than sticking around a daycare and running in circles. Now I want to get into my favorite thing that they've done with Scarlet and Violet, and that is the UI. So let's start with one of the best, the Pokedex. The front of the Pokedex shows how many Pokemon you've caught and battled, and even shows you in detail your recently caught Pokemon and your recently battled Pokemon by scrolling down. And when you select a certain Pokemon, you can click through and it'll show you a really nice detailed picture of the Pokemon and allow you to look at the habitat and the details of the Pokemon. And in the details, not only do you get your usual Pokédex entry, you also get the motions the Pokemon does, the animations, along with the cry. And you can see here the summary screen for Pokemon is actually pretty packed and dense with information. You've got all of the usual information as well as your Terra type and a new symbol for the Terra type down at the bottom. And you can also change your nickname and your markings straight from the field. You also have a dedicated button to change your held item in this screen as well. Even the UI for the auto battles is really nice, and pretty simple too. You get your Pokemon's HP in the bottom left, and then whenever your Pokemon defeats another Pokemon, you get all of your XP in a pop-up to the left, but it doesn't interrupt anything you're doing. And on the right side of the screen, it shows what your Pokemon defeated, as well as the loot that it got from it. And along with auto battling, just like any good RPG, there is autopathing, or at least it looks like it. You saw they marked the destination on the map, and then in the next clip, there's kind of a side profile of the character riding Miraidon, and it looks like it's autopathing straight to that destination. In fact, that's exactly what it looks like, as they seem to have marked a destination that looks like a gate on the map, and in the next clip, after the autopathing on Miraidon, they end up at a gate. And just quickly, I want to talk about the map here. It looks like there's a rotation mode, so you can rotate the map, as well as scroll around, of course. In the kind of top left of the map, you can see the buttons to zoom in and out of the map, and it looks like the Pokemon centers there, and maybe whatever that is over there on that mountain, those little wing symbols or feather symbols, that might be fast travel. So now we've seen how good the UI is on 2 of the 3 symbols there on the menu, and the Pokemon Company was nice enough to tweet out the third, which is what used to be the trainer card and is now called the profile. And the profile again has really good UI in this game, and it's got a lot more information than it used to have in the past. Well, I say that, but I don't see where it says how much money the player has, so I mean that's one less thing than it has in the past. But it does have the badges you have, which is normal for most trainer cards. It actually has how many Pokemon you've battled and caught, the shiny Pokemon you've battled, or at least the amount, your recipes collected for, I guess, the picnic function, and your total playtime, as well as, of course, your ID number. I guess your money might be on the back when you press A to change the view, but you can also change your background photo, which is actually pretty nice. I guess this is similar to what we had in Sword and Shield, but it looks like we can use the actual camera function, which I'll get to in the UI section next, as well as you can hide the info so you can see your whole background photo. So overall, really good UI improvements on all of the menu options. And as promised, here is the camera features, and what can I say? It's beautiful. And, I mean, it's really intuitive as well. There's a specific button for everything, and it's all laid out in the guide, which is pretty helpful. You've got filters just built in, you've got your expressions and eyes as well, so you can look in certain directions. And from the looks of it, you can use it basically wherever you want. They're even going so far as to improve things that have been a staple of Pokemon since forever, like evolutions happening in an alternate universe rather than in the actual game. So now we can evolve our Pokemon in the field rather than in some spacey place. They're even improving raids and allowing your Pokemon to revive if they get knocked out. And they're implementing a new cheering system which can raise your entire team's stats or heal your entire team as well. Also seen in this raid battle is what seems to be the returning status effects from Legends Arceus, which were Drowsy and Frostbite. As you can see during this battle, the Girafarig and the Driftblim were both asleep at one point, or drowsy, and they were still attacking the Chansey. But it looks like raids will run a little bit smoother and faster and be a little more interactive than just simply click the strongest move you have and wait for the Pokemon to die. One more thing I forgot to mention about raids is it seems like you'll be able to choose your attacks, and everybody will choose their attack all at once, and then every Pokemon on your side of the field will attack at once. And so there won't be any kind of delays between each person's attack and waiting around. And how could I not talk about what makes each 3D Pokemon game different from the last? So in this game, the gimmick is terastallization, and in my opinion, it is going to be one of the best gimmicks we've seen so far, both in terms of balance and use cases. It's great because it doesn't seem overpowered, and it doesn't require an item like two of the overpowered gimmicks, Mega Evolution and Z moves. And unless you get one-hit KO'd right off the bat, it's not going to be able to be blocked like Z moves were. I think it'll also have the most strategy and variability out of any of the gimmicks. Also, every Pokemon can get it, unlike Mega Evolution and Gigantamax. So unlike the other gimmicks, there's not going to be any specific Pokemon that are simply the meta choice, and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage if you don't use it. So simply put, I think Scarlet and Violet will reverse the downfall of Pokemon. So I made this graph depicting the quality that I think each Pokemon generation had, and I'm putting Scarlet and Violet just above Black and White and far above the three earlier 3D Pokemon. All of the 2D Pokemon had constant improvements to mechanics, visuals, UI, and story after Gen 2. And even the post-game content was constantly improving and expanding. Now, whether the 2D games look better is subjective, but they were visually cohesive, unlike the 3D games where models and textures often look like they're from entirely different games. And they were constantly putting more and more effort into the story up until Black and White 2, and then the 3D games came and acted like the Three Stooges named Forgettable, Mediocre, and literally an NPC did all the story in the background while you fought the gyms. So from this video, I think you should be able to tell that I think Scarlet and Violet have improved upon all the places where the other 3D games were lacking, and if it has a good story, it will be the best Pokemon game to date. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you agree.